You're listening to the Cash Podcast, creating affluence, success, and happiness with your financial surgeon, Adam Koós, President and Portfolio Manager at Libertas Wealth Management Group at libertaswealth.com.
Happy Friday, everyone. For those of you who are subscribers, you're getting this early because I'm recording this week's episode on Monday night for distribution on Friday. But if you subscribe, you'll get a notification as soon as our podcast drops. So be sure to subscribe going forward. All you got to do is hit that little button, and you'll get our notifications as soon as our podcast records, no matter what time of day or what time of week it is. And today, we're talking about how you can make an extra $100,000 by retirement, but that's not it. Depending on your age, how you save, and what type of account you use, you could add as much as $500,000 or more to your retirement portfolio. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, as always, a few housekeeping items. If this is your first time listening or watching, then thank you so much for joining us. The Cash Podcast is produced weekly. And as stated in the intro, CASH stands for creating affluence, success, and happiness, and that's our mission. My hope is for you to learn a little bit more on each and every episode so that you become more successful, wealthier, and happier, and more educated than you were before you started listening today. So please come back often. Feel free to subscribe, like I said earlier, on iTunes and YouTube. We're on both. So if you're a listener and you like to listen to podcasts in the car, check us out on iTunes. If you're somebody who would rather watch or get on YouTube and see slides, even though today we're not going to be sharing a lot of visual content. Sometimes we do, but today we won't. Then be sure to subscribe on YouTube as well. In addition, you can also follow me on Twitter at Adam Koós and on Instagram at Financial Surgeon. Last but not least, like I said, all links, visuals, charts, other educational resources are always available on our website at libertaswealth.com. But today, again, we're not going to be sharing a whole lot of visual information. Just kind of talking you through the numbers is all. So for those of you who are listening on iTunes and you're looking for a breather in terms of less chart-heavy material, then today this is your episode. So let's go ahead and get started here. Today, like I said, make an extra $100,000 by retirement. This isn't some marketing ploy. This isn't some trick or reason to get you to watch this episode. This is serious, real stuff here. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how much money you have. In fact, all the examples that I'm going to share today, don't assume you have any money. And in fact, I could have added more examples where we started with larger balances and the numbers look even better. But everything I'm going to teach you today and everything I'm going to show you, I'm not really showing you anything, but everything I'm going to teach you and tell you today is assuming you're starting with nothing. So I think that's a good place to start, is to basically say that whatever I share with you today, whatever you've done thus far, just means that that's a bonus. It's just going to be that much better. So let's go ahead and dive into the material. Now, first, as always, I'm a big quote person. If you've watched or listened to our podcasts in the past, then you already know this. I love quotes. I collect them. They're in my shower, literally laminated in my shower, and I read them every day, and I just think they're super inspiring. And in this case today, for today's podcast, I didn't even have to look this up. Immediately, the first quote that came to mind was Albert Einstein's quote, and he said, "Compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it." And it's so true. Compounding interest, the earlier you start, the better off you are. But I can't stand how oftentimes we'll talk to people who will think, well, I'm too old now, or I made money, I put money in my 401k, and at this point in my life, yeah, my kids are in college now, and I got to pay for college, and there's just not much time left. I just I'm saving as much as I can, but there's just no time. And what I want to share with you today is that whether you are a middle to upper class good frugal saver, to an upper class just amazing saver, you can do this. You can save money for yourself, and put yourself in a position to quit working when you'd like to have the choice to quit. But not only that, but to live a lifestyle that you've always wanted. And the key is to start now. It's kind of like, honestly, it's kind of like, we talk about every year, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. We talk about New Year's resolutions and, what are we going to do for New Year's? And I don't know what the percentage is. I've seen the stat before, and I don't have it handy. I wasn't prepared, honestly. I'm going off the cuff here. So I think that a very high, a drastically high percentage of individuals and couples make weight loss one of their top New Year's resolutions. And what's even crazier is by February 1st, which is obviously already at this point a month ago, most of those New Year's resolutions have already been kicked to the curb at this juncture. And here we are in March. It's March 1st. I'm recording this right now. So it's not unlike that. It takes time, but it's not too late to start. It doesn't matter. If you're 20, 25, and you start saving and you use compound interest to your advantage, you're going to be in a way better situation than you would if you have nothing and you're starting at 50 or 55. The good news is, a good percentage of people anyway have something saved at 50, 55, whether that's in their 401k, 403b, 457, deferred comp plan, TSP, and what have you. But the point is it's even if you're 50 and you feel like you haven't done well enough for yourself, 55 years of age, it's just like those New Year's resolutions when it comes to fitness and working out and eating better and losing weight and getting in shape, extending your life. In this case, we're extending our retirement pleasure and the luxuries of retirement and the things we can do. As the saying goes, money is a unit of choice. The more units we have, the more choices we have. So when so many of us say, I'm going to have the Last Supper tonight, and I'll start next week. I can't count the number of times I've said that myself, by the way. But for those people who have said, I'll start losing weight next month, or I'll start next week, or I'll start on Monday, you can start. Even if you feel like you're late, you're too late. Even if you feel like you're behind the 8 ball, you can start now. You can start on Monday. You can start next pay period, and you can start catching up. And I guess that's where I'll make the segue here. Let's start talking about some things that you can do regardless of your age. And I'm going to start with the youngest folks. And I don't want to turn anybody off here. Please don't hit the X and close the window yet. If you're listening, please don't turn it off. I've got something for everybody here. But we're going to go from 25 years of age all the way up to 55 years of age. But if you're 25 years of age and you save $500 a month and you never save another dime, obviously you probably should save more than that. And you probably will, especially if you have a 401k, of course. And you'll probably get a match, but we'll talk about that later. But if you save $500 a month, and that's $6,000 a year into an IRA, we'll just say, and let's just assume you earn 4% interest. Now, some people are going to think, oh, that sounds fine. Some people are going to think 4% seems a little high. Other people are going to think 4% seems really low. It just depends on what your experience has been in the stock market, obviously. But the average annualized rate of return for the stock market for the last 20 years has been about 6%, just over 6%. So we're going to say 4%, just be conservative here. You would have, if you put $500 a month away every year, I'm 25 years old. I'm not, but if I were 25 years old, $500 a month, that equates to $6,000 a year, and I earn 4% interest. Obviously, if I earn more, then obviously I make more. But if I earn 4% interest, which I think is a pretty conservative number for a 25-year-old, really conservative, then I finish at 65 years of age with $592,959. And that's all I ever saved. Now, we're probably going to need more than that to retire on, but that's a good start, especially if we're starting at 25 and we're excited about the stock market and investing. I think too many times these days, people are focused on the wrong things. They're focused on this GameStop stuff and Wall Street bets and Reddit and how can I get rich quick and retire in 10 years by investing in the stock market. I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds. And if you don't know that, you'll learn, I guess, the hard way probably. But I think that what the smart thing to do is, if you want to have some play money aside in an account where you're playing around with the money, you're trying to buy cheap stocks, you're trying to follow social media communities in order to determine what stocks you're going to buy or short for that matter, then you can do that. But just make sure you always have what I would call your serious money, your serious retirement money that you're saving for retirement so you can quit someday. Not necessarily, and maybe you never want to retire, but I always like to say it's not retirement. It's when would you like to have the choice to quit working? And if you never want to try, that's fine. Or if you don't want to quit, that's fine. But if you'd like to have the choice to quit working at 60, 65, or even 55, depending on how well you've done, then if you save and you plan and you're ready at that point to quit if you want to, there's a whole lot of freedom and a sense of, I don't know, I mean, a sense of freedom's the only word that comes to mind, I guess, but there's a sense of, I'll call it a liberation, that when you hit that point, hypothetically speaking, if you're 60 years of age and you've done everything you're supposed to do between now and then so that you can quit if you wanted to, but you don't want to, how powerful is that? How powerful is it to be able to quit if you want? So any day of the week, any week of the year, if you decide, you know what, I'm just done, I'm just not feeling it anymore, I just want to quit, you can do that. But if you don't plan in advance, if you don't put that plan in place, then obviously it's going to be much less likely that you ever get to that point. So anyway, I digress. I'm preaching here. I apologize. So that's 25 years of age. Let's move on. Let's just say I'm 45 years old. I'm in my peak earning years. I kind of feel like I'm strapped. The kids are, I'm helping them pay for college. It's just rough. So $500 a month, same story here. $500 a month invested from now, meaning 45 years of age, until 65 years of age. Same number, $6,000 a year, into an IRA, we're saying. Again, at 4% interest. That same investment ends up $185,815. So even if you're 45 years of age, yeah, okay, I get it. It's not $500,000. It's not more than $500,000, but it's still $185,000 plus added to your retirement savings because you decided to make room in your budget to start putting money away for you above and beyond, let's just say, what you're already saving, which obviously makes this even obviously more advantageous. But let's just say that all the examples, like I said earlier, that I'm using are assuming you have nothing, assuming you've done nothing, which I assume most of the people that are watching or listening to this have done something. At least I hope you have. But again, using that same 4% rate of return, understanding that the S&P 500 20-year rate of return has been right around 6% per year. Now, let's move on. Let's say, and I've heard this before, if I had a nickel, for how many times I've heard, yeah, but Adam, I'm 50 years of age, and I've got no time left. I mean, retirement is staring me in the face, is how I feel, and there's no time. Let's use that same, let's not change anything here. Let's use that same $500 per month from now until 65, but this time I'm 50. That means I only have 15 years. That's it. From now until 65. Same $500 a month is $6,000 a year. We're going to use an IRA again just to keep things simple. Assuming 4% interest. Again, I'm trying to keep things simple here, so all things held constant. That contribution of $500 a month from now until I'm 65, so $500 a month, $6,000 a year, grows to a total of $124,947. We'll just call it $125,000 by the time I quit working. All because I just made the decision and worked it into my budget to save an extra $500 per month for myself between now at 50 years of age until I quit working at 65. So now, what if we change the game a little bit? So I've been keeping things constant. What if we change the game? Let's just say we can make this tax-free. So instead of investing in an IRA, let's just say we invested in a Roth IRA. For those of you that don't know, A Roth IRA is after tax now. We don't get a deduction, but we never pay tax again. So with traditional IRAs, with 401ks, traditional 401ks, anything we put into those accounts is pre-tax now. We get a deduction today, but we pay the tax later in retirement when we pull the money out and we supplement our retirement income. In the case of a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, if your company, your employer provides it, we manage 401ks for several companies, primarily in Ohio, but all of the 401ks that we manage for our clients have Roth 401k options. So if you want to use a Roth instead of the pre-tax traditional option, you can. But again, any Roth IRA or Roth 401k is after tax today. You don't get a deduction. You still got to pay the tax on your full salary for the amount that for any amount that you put into a Roth 401k or Roth IRA. But you never pay tax again, assuming you don't take the money out after A, 5 years. You got to leave it there 5 years at a minimum. And B, you can't take the growth out until you're 59 and a half years of age. After 59 and a half, there's no tax on the growth either. So it's federally, state, and local tax-free. Now, one of the many questions we get, well, I shouldn't say many questions, but yeah, I guess, okay, that's fair. We get many questions, obviously, about several retirement planning, investment management, estate planning, financial planning, tax planning, insurance questions. So everything that runs the financial gamut, we get questions about everything. But one of the questions we hear a lot when we're talking about IRAs or 401ks specifically is, does it make more sense for me, whoever you are, to invest my money into a Roth 401k or a traditional 401k, if you have that option, by the way? I think the last stat I saw is that 36%, 36% of 401ks do not offer a Roth 401k option. So obviously, as time's gone on, more and more companies are offering that Roth, which is great. But it has to make sense for you. So who does it make sense for? Now remember, whenever we put money into a traditional 401k, like what we're used to, anybody who's ever had a 401k for years and years and years knows that if I make $100,000 a year and I put $15,000 into my 401k, my traditional pre-tax 401k, I get to tell the IRS that I made $85,000, which means I'm only going to be taxed on $85,000 of income, which reduces my taxable income, which means that every dime that I put into that 401k saves me tax dollars, which is a good thing. With a Roth, on the other hand, if I make $100,000 and I put $15,000 in, I still have to tell the federal government on my tax return that I made $100,000 because I do not get a tax deduction. So it's not that I pay tax twice. That's actually one of the many misconceptions about Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks, is that if I put money into a Roth, that I have to pay tax today and then I pay tax again somehow. That's not true. The fact is that when you put money into a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, you're not paying any extra tax. You're just paying the same tax you would have if you would have put no money away. You're taking $15,000 in this example. You're putting it into a Roth 401k, and you'll never pay tax on that money again, federal, state, or local, as long as you leave it there for at least 5 years, and at 59 and a half, you don't take it out until then. Because again, the principal, the money you put away into a Roth, is your money. It's after tax. So you can have access to that under certain circumstances. But the growth on that money has never been taxed. So you cannot take that money out until you're 59 and a half or older in retirement. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that for people who are like, what should I invest my money in? Should it be Roth or should it be traditional? If you're not married, let's just say, and you're making, $30,000 a year, which is not most people. Let's just say you're very, very young, making very low income, then using a Roth 401k might make a lot of sense. Now the problem is, of course, if you're young, you're 25 years, 28 years of age, and you're making $35,000 a year, chances are you're probably needing most of that money for your bills. So there's probably not going to be a lot of money left to save at the end of the day, because you have your apartment, your rent, you have your utilities, you have your cable bill, your phone bill, food, of course, things like that. So if you start going up in income, there does come a point where if you're making $40,000-$50,000 a year, and or if you're married and your total combined family income is well under $100,000, then it might make sense to use a Roth 401k for your savings, because the goal would be, I'm paying my tax today. I'm never, ever, 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 ever going to pay tax on this 401k money, my Roth 401k money in retirement, because I'm going to make about the same amount of money in retirement as I did when I was working. But that's not most people. And this is where it can get a little frustrating, I think, for us as professionals, because I think there's some bad advice out there. I think there's some bad education. I think there's maybe situations where people are trying to sell a Roth IRA or sell a Roth 401k to you, when the fact of the matter is that most people, married or single, will probably make less earned income in retirement than they are making when they're working. Now, the only caveat there is there's some that may think that, well, income tax rates are pretty low these days, so maybe income tax rates go up over time. And I think that would be probably pretty accurate. I think that tax rates will probably go up over time, without a doubt. I think they'll go up. But will your tax rate, will the amount of money that you're making today in retirement be low enough to where when you quit working, that your tax rate, not just tax rates in general, but your tax rate will be low enough to constitute, or for it to have made sense for you to put money into an after-tax Roth, as opposed to deducting that money and saving that tax money today. So let me wrap this up and make this super simple here. If I'm married and I'm making a combined family income of $120,000 a year, chances are when I quit working, and I'm gonna make the assumption, if you're a policeman, if you're a firefighter, if you're a teacher, if you work for the federal government, then email me, call me, set up a phone appointment, and I'm happy to give you as much free advice as you'd like to hear and share with you why that's important and why that might change the game here. But if you're not a policeman, firefighter, teacher, federal employee, state employee, and you're not going to get a pension, you're going to rely on your savings and Social Security income, then chances are the better way to go is for you to put money into a traditional 401k, save the money on the tax today, and then pay the tax later in retirement. In other words, I make $120 today. Let's just say between the two of me and my spouse, we put away a total of $30,000 into our 401ks, the two of us. We get to tell the government today that we make $90. That saves a ton of tax today. And when we quit working, chances are our Social Security is not earned income. Now, a portion of your Social Security will probably be taxed, but not all of it. And then when you're done working, unless you're making money, you're going to work, earning money, chances are your tax rate's probably going to be lower, even if tax rates are higher. So I'm sorry that I turned that into such a long explanation, but it's so important. And again, it's probably when we're managing money for 401ks and we're talking to employees of 401k plans, this is the number one question we hear all the time is, should I put my money in a Roth or should I put my money in the traditional 401k? And it always frustrates me, I guess, for lack of a better word, when I hear people that have been putting money into, say, a Roth 401k for years when they really shouldn't have. They've been leaving money on the table and paying the IRS too much when we could have saved them money. So anyway, let me move on here. The last thing I want to share with you today, the last thing I want to tell you, again, if I'm 50 years of age, what if instead of a IRA or Roth, what if we have a 401k at work, which most people do? I mean, occasionally, just recently we were talking to a client who just changed jobs and his new employer doesn't have a 401k. And that's unfortunate. I feel like, if an employer, even if they don't have the money, even if you're an employer, by the way, if you're listening to this right now and you own a business and you don't have a 401k, there are ways to set up 401ks that are extremely inexpensive in terms of the cost to the employer, the cost to you. So if you're listening to this and you're an employer, or if you're listening to this and you're an employee, please forward this podcast on to your employer and let them know that they can reach out to us for free advice. Even if you don't hire us to manage your 401k for you, we're happy to share with you and educate you on the different ways that you can set up a 401k so you can provide your employees with the benefit that they deserve, which is the ability to save for their own retirement on a pre-tax or post-tax basis. But I digress. So what if instead of an IRA or Roth, let's just say you're investing in a 401k at work. Now let's just say if you're one of the lucky people and it's more than not that have a match. So there's many 401ks out there that don't have a match at all, and that's fine. But in my opinion, at least the employer's offering the plan. That's better than zero, right? So it's better than nothing. But what if you have, let's just hypothetically say, 100% match on your income up to 3% of your income? So 100% match up to 3. Dollar for dollar match up to 3. And let's just say you make $100,000 a year. If you put away that same $500 a month that we've been talking about as we've been going over all these Roth IRA and traditional IRA examples that I've been sharing with you today, so the same $500 a month plus a 3% match on your income for 15 years, then your ending balance from now, if I'm 50 years of age until 65, when I turn 65, $500 a month plus 3% match dollar for dollar on my income for the next 15 years comes out to $184,093. So $184,000, assuming again a 4% rate of return, which is again pretty conservative, I think, reasonable. I think is the right word, as compared to putting that money into a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, where that same $500 a month without a match would have ended up with $124,947. So put the money into an IRA, Roth IRA, $124,947 versus the 401k with the match, $184,000 plus. So I think that's kind of a no-brainer here. So the moral of the story when it comes to 401ks is always take the free money. If you have a 401k and it has a match and you're not putting away enough money to meet that match, you need to start doing that tomorrow. That's the first thing you need to do when you go to work, assuming there's not some task or projects that's going to get you fired if you don't do it. You need to go straight to work tomorrow, first thing, and take that free money, set up your 401k match, or meet the match. Whatever the maximum contribution for the match is, that's the minimum. And if you want one more piece of free advice today, one of the other questions I often get is, how much money do I need to be saving in order to continue my standard of living when I quit working? I hate rules of thumb, but if there's going to be a rule of thumb today, today's the day to do it, because we're talking about a lot of just standard boilerplate IRA, Roth IRA, 401k contribution limits and contribution rates and rates of return and future value calculations. In my opinion, if you save between 14 and 16% of your income, which includes your match, by the way. So if you get a 3% match, then that means you need to be saving a minimum of 11% of your income into your 401k. And your goal, in my opinion, should be to max out your 401k. If you're under 50 years of age this year in 2021, that's $19,500 a year. If you're over 50, you qualify for a catch-up contribution, which means you can save up to $26,000 a year, and that's what you need to be doing. But at the bare minimum, people should be saving between 14 and 16% of their income, whatever it is you make, which includes the match. And I think that you could be setting yourself up for success. Of course, I think you need a financial plan, retirement plan, projections out in the future. Everybody spends a different amount of money. Everybody has different goals in life. Everybody has different, expectations in terms of where they want to retire, how they want to retire, whether they want to have a retirement home, in terms of a vacation home, let's just say, in a different state, if they just want to move and live in a warmer climate. In the case of those of us here in Ohio who maybe get a little bit sick of the colder months that we're just kind of walking out of at this point. But I'm going to digress, and we're going to close out today's episode. Please, for those of you, again, whether you're an employee, an employer, please feel free to share this episode with your friends and family. And if you'd like to discuss your personal situation further, remember that you never ever have to be a client to ask a question. If you'd like to set up an introduction call or Zoom meeting, just head over to our website at libertaswealth.com on our contact page, where you can get access to our calendar and set up an intro call on our calendar. As I always say, there are thousands of podcasts out there, and you chose to give ours a listen today, so thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and remember, you can sign up at libertaswealth.com to get these updates, as well as other screencasts, videos, and articles that we write delivered directly to your inbox as soon as they're written. So feel free to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Libertas Wealth. I'm also on Twitter at Adam Koos, as well as Instagram at Financial Surgeon. So thank you again so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Cash Podcast with your financial surgeon, Adam Koos. To see any charts or images that were mentioned in this show, or to check out additional articles, videos, and other educational resources, head over to libertaswealth.com.